Let's just call it out. If you think historical drama starts and ends with English country houses, you're missing most of the fun. Sure, the BBC has a monopoly on corsets and tea sets, but the real fireworks, those happen everywhere else, where the rules are different, the stakes are higher, and the backstabbing comes with subtitles. So, are you really ready to trade in the rolling hills of Derbyshire for the chaos of Berlin cabarets, Russian palaces, and blood-soaked dynasties? Buckle up, because the next 12 stops aren't where your history teacher wanted to take you, and you won't believe what's waiting just outside the crown's shadow. Babylon Berlin, Germany, 2017. You want history with teeth? Forget the drawing rooms. Babylon Berlin plunges you straight into 1929, where the world is all jazz, vice, and violence, and the Weimar Republic teeters like a drunk on a ledge. The show isn't just period accurate, it's a fever dream that feels like you've been dropped into a city on the edge of something unthinkable. The camera swirls through smoky nightclubs, rain-slicked streets, and palaces that look like they've seen better days. But don't get too comfortable. There's murder around every corner, and every face is hiding a secret. Inspector Garyon Rath is your unreliable tour guide, a police detective with a haunted past, a morphine addiction, and a knack for stumbling into the wrong kind of trouble. He's not your stiff upper-lip British sleuth. He's all nerves and desperation, dodging bullets and betrayals, while the city's political climate grows more poisonous by the hour. On the other side, Charlotte Ritter claws her way out of poverty, dancing between high society and the slums, determined to seize control of her own story in a world stacked against her. But here's the real draw. Babylon Berlin doesn't sanitize history. It doesn't give you a polished, nostalgic Germany. It drags you through its nightmares and dreams, all set to a pounding jazz soundtrack that's equal parts seduction and warning siren. You get communists, fascists, organized crime, and the looming sense that history is about to snap. The cinematography is so lush you can almost smell the cigarette smoke and spilled gin, and every episode feels urgent, alive, and just a little bit dangerous. Why does it matter? Because this is what happens when a country tries to dance through disaster, and the world pretends not to watch. Babylon Berlin is a masterclass in tension and atmosphere, and it doesn't just entertain. It leaves you breathless and asking, what would I have done when the world was this close to burning? Miss this show, and you miss out on history's wildest party before the lights go out. The Empress, Germany, 2022. If you think the only imperial drama worth your time wears a British accent, you're about to get a wake-up call from Vienna. The Empress is what happens when you put a wild-hearted teenager in the most rigid palace on earth and dare her to survive. This isn't some sugar-coated fairy tale. It's the true story of Elizabeth of Bavaria, Sisi to her friends, a walking scandal to everyone else, and her explosive arrival at the Habsburg court. Imagine this. Sisi is 17, stubborn, and already smarter than half the men in uniform. She's supposed to play second fiddle to her older sister in the royal marriage market, but a single look from Emperor Franz Joseph flips the script. Suddenly, Sisi is not just a princess, but the Empress of Austria, without a clue what rules she's just agreed to play by. She walks into a court that's all diamonds and daggers, where every compliment is a test and every glance is a trap. If you think palace intrigue is just polite gossip, you're not ready for Sisi's world. The Empress captures the suffocating rituals, the backroom scheming, and the endless parade of jealous courtiers with a camera that refuses to blink. There are no polite fades here, just sharp cuts and sharper tongues. Sisi's mother-in-law, the iron-willed Archduchess Sophie, turns every family dinner into a power play, while Franz Joseph himself is torn between duty, desire, and the oncoming storms outside his gilded windows. And then there's Sisi herself, breaking rules, forging alliances, and trying to hold on to her spirit before the palace grinds it into dust.
What makes this show sing? The sheer energy. It's lush without being stuffy, romantic without being sappy, and bold enough to show a woman fighting history on her own terms. You get rebellion, heartbreak, politics, and a heroine who refuses to disappear into the wallpaper. The Empress isn't just about surviving the palace, it's about changing it, one scandal at a time. And if you still think you know how a royal story ends, Sisi's not done with you yet. Ekaterina, Russia, 2014-2019. If you think palace intrigue is just a British pastime, step into St. Petersburg in the 1700s and try not to lose your head, literally. Ekaterina is Russian history dialed up to 11, and it plays out like a game of chess where every piece has poison hidden under its crown. Forget the powdered wigs and polite banter. This is about survival in a court where today's friend is tomorrow's executioner. Catherine the Great starts as an outsider, a minor German princess whose biggest weapon is her brains. She's married off to the petulant, unhinged Peter III. Think less future king, more problem child, and thrown into a pit of backstabbers, spies, and family members who'd sooner see her shipped back to Prussia than on the throne. But Catherine doesn't just survive, she rewrites the rules. The show doesn't slow down for sentimentality. You see the betrayals, the plots, the endless parade of suitors, and Catherine navigating it all with a poker face and a steel spine. It's a world of candlelit corridors, hushed conversations, and threats whispered in 4 languages. Every episode, someone's scheming for the crown, and Catherine is always 2 steps ahead, learning how to wield power as both a woman and a ruler in a world where neither is supposed to win. What makes Ekaterina pop is its refusal to mythologize. The violence is real, the stakes are sky high, and the moral lines are blurry. Catherine is ambitious, sure, but she's also vulnerable, calculating, and, at times, shockingly ruthless. The series never lets you forget what's at stake. Not just an empire, but a woman's place in a man's world and the cost of keeping it. Russian court life has never looked this dangerous or this electric. If you want to see a real queen play for keeps, don't skip Ekaterina. By the end, you'll be asking who the real villains are, the ones who plotted against her or the ones who underestimated her. Isabel Spain, 2014. What do you get when you throw a teenage girl into a country tearing itself apart? Isabel answers that with teeth bared. This isn't a pageant, it's a bare-knuckle brawl in velvet gloves. Set in the Spain of the late 1400s, the series puts you right in the eye of the storm as Isabel, the future Queen of Castile, battles scheming nobles, power-hungry family, and the church, all before she's even old enough to rule. Michelle Jenner's Isabel isn't some delicate flower waiting to be rescued. She's fierce, clever, and surrounded by enemies who'd rather see her married off to a minor lord or locked away in a convent than anywhere near the throne. The tension in Isabel comes from watching her learn, adapt, and outplay the men around her. Every episode brings a new betrayal, a new alliance, or a new heartbreak. Whether it's her brother, the king, flip-flopping on his promises, her rival nobles switching sides with the wind, or the unblinking gaze of the Inquisition, Isabel's path is never safe. But she doesn't just react, she fights back, negotiating marriages, striking deals, and facing down her foes with a stubbornness that would make even Henry VIII flinch. The stakes? Nothing less than the future of Spain. As she marries Ferdinand and unites the kingdoms, the entire continent is watching, and more than one would-be king is sweating. Visually, Isabel goes all in. Massive castles, intricate costumes, and candlelit courts remind you that every victory is paid for in whispers and blood. The show doesn't sugarcoat the cost of power. You see what Isabel loses along the way. Friends, family, even pieces of herself. But that's what makes her compelling. She knows exactly what's at stake, and she never backs down. By the end, you'll realize that Isabel isn't just a survivor. She's a force of history. For anyone tired of dramas where women wait for rescue, here's one who storms the walls herself. My Brilliant Friend Italy, 2018. Think you know what a historical drama looks like? Forget the crowns and castles and say hello to the alleys of post-war Naples, where survival is a contact sport and friendship is the only armor you get. My Brilliant Friend isn't some sepia-toned nostalgia trip. It's gritty, raw, and devastatingly honest. Based on Elena Ferrante's beloved novels, this is the coming-of-age story that leaves polite drawing rooms in the dust and dives straight into the mud, sometimes literally. The show starts with Elena and Lila, 2 girls growing up in a poor, violent, and claustrophobic neighborhood. Their world is ruled by men with short tempers and even shorter futures, mothers who carry bitterness like a second skin, and teachers who are just as likely to hit you as help you. School is a battleground. Home isn't much safer, and every alley seems to hold a new betrayal. But at the center is their friendship, equal parts loyalty, rivalry, and the kind of deep, uneasy love that never gets easy. What makes My Brilliant Friend unforgettable is how unsparing it is. Every episode pulls you deeper into the girl's struggles, academic, personal, romantic, and even existential. You feel the hunger, the longing, the fear, and the reckless hope that comes from wanting more than what life handed you. There's no sugarcoating here. Marriages fall apart, families implode, and dreams cost more than you can pay. But the show never gets cynical. Instead, it holds up a mirror to the ways people fight for meaning, for connection, and for escape. Why does it matter? Because history isn't just about kings and queens, it's about everyone else, clawing their way through the dust. My Brilliant Friend is as beautiful as it is brutal, a love letter to survival and ambition, and proof that the hardest stories are often the truest. Versailles, France, Canada, 2015-2018. Forget everything you thought you knew about courtly restraint. Versailles is the costume drama that doesn't know how to behave. Welcome to the Sun King's playground, where gold leaf covers every surface and ambition is the only currency that matters. Louis XIV wants to build the most magnificent palace on earth, but what he's really constructing is a powder keg. The nobles have been dragged out of their ancestral castles and forced to play by Louis's rules, and nobody is happy about it, least of all the king's scheming brother or his endless parade of lovers. From the first shot, Versailles is a sensory overload. Opulent halls, dangerous liaisons, and backroom plotting so thick you'll need a map just to keep track of the double crosses. But don't mistake the decadence for fluff. Underneath the jewels and wigs is a court where every smile is a threat and every dance could end in exile, or worse. George Blagden's Louis is both ruthless and magnetic, wielding charm and cruelty in equal measure. The courtiers fight for favor, trading secrets and sabotaging rivals with a shamelessness that's almost admirable. What sets Versailles apart is its swagger. The show never slows down to apologize for its success. It gives you romance, betrayal, and political games played at a level where one mistake means losing everything. The soundtrack pulses with modern beats, and the cinematography makes every shadow look like a secret waiting to be discovered. If you came for polite history, you're in the wrong palace. Versailles isn't here to make you comfortable. It's here to show you how power really works, in all its mess and glory. By the end, you'll understand why Louis XIV called himself the Sun King. He didn't just light up France, he burned everything that stood in his way. Maria Theresia Austria, Czech Republic. 2017. You want to talk about pressure? Try being the only woman in history to rule the Habsburg Empire, and doing it while everyone around you bets on your failure. Maria Theresia is not your average period piece. It's a chronicle of survival, reinvention, and power grabs, set against the sprawling backdrop of Central Europe, where alliances are as fragile as crystal and trust is a rare commodity. The series begins with a girl who's barely out of childhood, suddenly expected to lead a patchwork empire that's about as stable as a house of cards in a windstorm.
Right from the first episode, Maria Theresia faces down hostile ministers, bitter rivals, and foreign powers itching to carve up her kingdom. Every decision is a gamble. Every advisor is a potential traitor. The stakes couldn't be higher: her marriage, her children, her very claim to the throne. She's not just fighting for her own survival, but for the fate of an entire dynasty that believes women should smile and step aside. But Maria Theresia doesn't just hold her ground. She reforms the military, overhauls the government, and manages to outmaneuver some of the sharpest minds in Europe, all while holding her family together and redefining what it means to rule. What makes this drama tick is its refusal to make things easy. The show is lush, sure, gowns, palaces, and candlelit councils abound, but every victory comes with a cost, and every setback feels earned. Maria Theresia herself is complex, stubborn, vulnerable, often lonely, but never outmatched. She makes mistakes, pays for them, and keeps going. The message is clear. History isn't kind, but it sometimes respects those who refuse to vanish. By the final credits, you're not just watching a queen, you're witnessing a woman inventing herself in real time. And history, for once, has no choice but to take notice. The Law According to Lydia Poet, Italy, 2023. Meet the woman who made the old boys clubs sweat. The Law According to Lydia Poet is history, but not as your textbook remembers it. The setting is Turin, 1883. Italy's buzzing with new ideas and even newer prejudices, and Lydia Poet, brilliant, stubborn, and about as subtle as a thunderclap, refuses to let anyone tell her she can't be a lawyer just because she's a woman. The court says no. The newspapers scoff. Even her own family isn't sure she can make it work. Lydia just smirks and walks right into every locked door, daring the world to stop her. This isn't the sort of period drama where everyone's sipping espresso and admiring the scenery. Instead, you get murder trials, legal loopholes, and battles with bureaucracy that are as cutthroat as any duel. Lydia takes cases nobody else wants, defending women, immigrants, and the accused who already look guilty to everyone else. She's clever, fast-talking, and never lets a little thing like the law get in the way of justice. Her brother Enrico, a cautious attorney, tries to rein her in, but Lydia's never met a rule she couldn't bend. What makes this show sing is its blend of wit, drive, and sheer defiance. The cinematography zips through gaslit streets and lavish courtrooms, while the script cracks with sharp dialogue and a modern rhythm. Lydia herself is endlessly watchable, equal parts charming, infuriating, and unstoppable. Every case is a fight, every episode a reminder that progress is made by people who refuse to accept no for an answer. By the finale, you're left wondering, how many walls would still be standing if more people knocked like Lydia? For anyone sick of historical dramas that play by the rules, here's a story about breaking them and rewriting history with every step. The Red Tent, Morocco, South Africa, USA, 2014. You want biblical drama with a pulse? Forget the old epics. The Red Tent brings the Old Testament to life and tells it from the inside out. This isn't a parade of bearded prophets and stone tablets. It's the untold story of Dinah, daughter of Jacob and Leah, and a whole world of women who get left out of the official record. The story takes you straight to the heart of ancient Canaan, where family politics make modern dynasties look tame, and survival means navigating a world built by and for men. Dinah's story is raw, intimate, and never sugar-coated. The Red Tent itself is a place of refuge and ritual, where women share secrets, dreams, and heartbreak out of earshot of their fathers, brothers, and husbands. Here, childbirth, grief, love, and betrayal play out with the urgency of real life, not Sunday school myth. Rebecca Ferguson's Dinah is all steel and sorrow, trying to chart her own fate in a world where even the strongest are at the mercy of custom and power. What sets the Red Tent apart is its willingness to linger on the daily realities of ancient life. The sweat, the fear, the comfort found only in sisterhood. The men wage war and chase glory. The women keep the world spinning while picking up the pieces. The show is lush, sun-drenched, and full of color, filmed on location in Morocco and South Africa. But beneath the beauty is grit, betrayals that sting, losses that wound, and small victories that matter. It's a side of history that rarely gets the spotlight, and once you've seen it, you won't forget it. Alias Grace Canada 2007. 2017. Canada, 1843. Snow, suspicion, and a double murder that has everyone asking the same question: did she or didn't she? Alias Grace takes Margaret Atwood's chilling true crime novel and turns it into a psychological maze that'll keep you second-guessing every detail. The story centers on Grace Marks, an Irish servant convicted of killing her employer and his housekeeper, yet for years she insists she can't remember what really happened. The show doesn't just tell you her story, it pulls you into her mind and locks the door behind you. Grace, played with eerie poise by Sarah Gadon, is an enigma, demure one minute, sly the next, always keeping the men around her off balance. A young doctor, hoping to uncover the truth through the new science of alienism, sits with Grace and coaxes out her memories, or so he thinks. The more she tells, the less you know what to believe. Flashbacks unravel a world of hardship, brutal immigration, servant life, hypocrisy, and a household full of secrets. What makes Alias Grace unforgettable isn't just the whodunit, but the how. The story asks, is Grace a cold-blooded murderer, a victim of circumstance, or something far more complicated? Every scene is thick with tension. Every answer spawns another question. The period details are immaculate, from the starched aprons to the frosted windows, but the real chills come from the mind games. This isn't just a murder mystery, it's a portrait of class, gender, and the stories society lets us tell. By the end, you'll be haunted by Grace's last smile, and by the unsettling suspicion that truth in the end is always just out of reach. Kingdom, South Korea, 2019. Now for the historical drama that truly rips up the rulebook. Imagine a Joseon dynasty epic with royal intrigue, plague, and zombies. Yes, you heard that right. Kingdom is equal parts political thriller and horror survival story, and it explodes the idea that historical drama has to be stuffy. The show starts with a simple premise. The king is gravely ill, and his son, Crown Prince Li Chang, suspects something isn't right. What he uncovers is a secret so rotten it's reanimating the dead, and not in a metaphorical way. Every episode is a masterclass in suspense. The court is a nest of vipers, packed with ministers who'd sell their souls and yours for a little more power. The countryside is gripped by famine, fear, and a sickness spreading faster than any rumor. The zombies themselves aren't just monsters. They're a living metaphor for greed, corruption, and the way disaster can turn the powerful into prey overnight. As the prince races against time to expose the truth, the show swings from epic battles to moments of claustrophobic terror, with every set piece filmed like a work of art. Kingdom doesn't skimp on character either. The heroes are flawed, the villains are sometimes sympathetic, and nobody is safe, not even the viewer's expectations. The costumes and locations are lush, but the pace never slows down to admire them. This is history as thrill ride, a story that keeps you gasping, guessing, and coming back for more. If you thought historical drama couldn't get your heart pounding, Kingdom is here to prove you wrong.